All right. Well, first thing, obviously, it's wonderful to be back in Blacksburg, and just grateful for Coach Fuente and Coach Hamilton to give me the opportunity to come back to Virginia Tech. It's been 17 years, so just really excited to be here. So be happy to answer any questions.
All right, Andy, you want to start?
Yeah, JC, I was curious, how well did you know Coach Fuente before this, and how this opportunity kind of developed for you?
I guess I met Coach Fuente a few years back when Charlie Wiles and those guys were still here and Bud was still coaching. When I used to come up to work the summer camps when I was at Marshall, they were gracious enough to always let me attend the camps because of my recruiting that was taking place for Marshall within the state of Virginia. So I kind of met Coach Fuente through those guys and just kind of developed a relationship with him based off all those camps.
I was talking to Daryl Tapp last week, and he said he never really envisioned coming back to Virginia Tech because Bud was there for so long and Charlie was there
Mm-hmm.
for so long. He never imagined them leaving. In your mind, did you ever think that you would get back to Virginia Tech in your career?
To be honest with you, no. I probably felt a little bit like Daryl did. Charlie and Bud were such staples, and you knew Charlie was probably going to be here as long as Bud was. And then once the opportunity opened up, and then Daryl got the job, and I was like, oh, here we go again, because I know Daryl's passion for this place and same passion that I have, that we all have, that spent our younger years here, and it was definitely a dream for me and my wife to get back here with our family, and everything happens for a reason, and here we are 17 years later after being a GA here and running the gamut of coaching stops. I'm lucky enough to be back at my alma mater.
And you obviously had a front row seat to this program, sort of on its initial rise there in the 90s. Is there anything you can take from your time here then that you can apply to the situation now that can make things better now?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Anything that knowledge of the program or anything that you guys did back then that you think would help the situation now?
Well, it's a different program. It's Coach Fuente's program, and obviously I'm going to bring my experience from my time as a player here, time as a GA here, and my time as a fan, just sitting back the past 17 years and watching the program, and just bring a passion and love for my university and wanting my alma mater to do well. I think that's the things I'm going to bring with me.
Thank you.
Mike Nizilik?
Yeah, JC is curious with the recruiting coordinator position on the defensive side. How do you tackle that? I mean, how do you? I mean, I know you have obviously ties to the state and things like that, but you come in and try to reach out to high school coaches. What do you kind of do to start there and kind of hit the ground running?
Well, I believe talking to Coach Fuente, that title is just really to assure that somebody in there is constantly thinking about recruiting and reminding guys about, let's take a look at these guys. Let's look at some younger guys. We need to see some 23s just to keep the recruiting on the forefront of their brain. No way am I going to come in and tell a grown man how to do his job. These guys have all recruited their areas for many years. So I don't think that's what the title really entails. It's just mainly to be the guy, other than J-Ham having to remind everybody, hey man, let's squeeze some time in, let's try to organize some time for recruiting instead of going to play basketball or going to work out. Let's make sure we watch a couple guys or call some coaches, do some due diligence before we get a workout in and things like that. It's nothing to necessarily take over and change anything that has been done here in the past.
And then with the defensive line guys, I mean, have you been watching film on all the guys? I mean, how do you kind of get up to speed on who they got on the defensive front?
Well, that was the hard part for me is I did get the job after the defense went through last year's cut-ups. So I'm trying to play catch up with the guys. I've seen them run around a little bit. Obviously, I watched anytime I had a chance to watch their games the last few years. I've obviously tuned in. But I'm just really starting to get to know the guys. To be honest with you, I've really only been here on the job for about 10 days now, and we had our first defensive line meeting today, and I told the guys that I'm familiar with you guys, but a lot of the team I'm still learning.
Thanks.
Mike Barber?
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good, man. How's it going?
Good to see you. I wanted to ask you mentioned visiting Tech when you were at Marshall. Coach Hamilton mentioned him visiting Marshall when he was at UVA Wise. Do you remember that and what kind of time that was?
Oh yeah, well I remember Jay Ham was a player when I was a GA, so we had a relationship that went all the way back to 2002 2003, and then when he eventually got into coaching, all of us Hokie alum guys who were in coaching bounce ideas off of each other all the time. It's kind of our own little network, obviously with Bud as the centerpiece. And when he was at VMI, I was actually, not only did we visit sometimes in the off season to just, talk X's and O's and scheme and bounce ideas off each other, he actually came to Marshall and interviewed, and we tried to hire him, and he ended up choosing to come here in an off the field role, which obviously jump started his career and catapulted himself into the position he has today. So obviously he made the right choice.
Have you heard from, shortly after they announced you being hired, I heard from like Hank, guys like that. Have you heard from a lot of the guys you played with excited to have you back at Tech?
It wasn't just the people and the guys that I play with. It was support staff. It was trainers, managers, student trainers that were here. Jen Hostovic, who used to tape my ankles before every game. It was it was overwhelming, the support and just people reaching out and congratulating me, and by no way means do I mean that this is not the end of it. This is just the beginning of it, and I have a job to do, and now all this honeymoon period is over. Now it's time to go to work.
Last one for me. Was there a food spot, a dining spot, a hangout that you when you were there is it still there, or is it?
You mean here in Blacksburg?
Yeah. Do you have a favorite, and is it there?
Well, there's only two, and the day I arrived on campus for our first day, my wife Jen actually came with me, and we flipped a coin, and it was heads was PKs and tails was McAdoo's, and it came up tails. So we went McAdoo's first for lunch, and then we hit PKs for dinner.
Norm?
Hey JC, you were never a Mike's guy for the burgers downtown?
No, I would frequent Mike's. I would go to Mike's there once in a while. I was disappointed that was no longer here.
Right.
But no, we were always McAdoo's and PK guys, and we would slip it over to see how I met her once in a while at Substation. But that was about our three main go-tos.
There you go. Yeah, sort of piggybacking off of that type of question. I know you got back frequently, just to visit and to work with someone and see practice and that kind of thing. Now that you're back in town and you're getting used to some of the facilities, how much different does the place seem than your days when you were actually on staff there? I mean, the last time you left, I guess they had built the south end zone, but they hadn't done anything to the west side. There was no Beamer barn. The Bowman room is still the Bowman room. All the offices look completely different. Does this seem like a completely different place now?
Yes, it does. It really does, in a great way. You see that the donations that people have made, the money and the things that go to the student athletes were needed, and the upgrades have been just incredible. The place, people ask me, how does it look? And I said, well, it looks exactly the same if same was 17 years ago, because it's completely different. It's just the whole ambiance of the place is just, it's very conducive for our student athletes to achieve what they want to achieve, both athletically and academically. And it was definitely needed, and I'm sure appreciated by the student athletes.
Yeah. How has your connection been with Coach Tierling? Obviously, it's being able to work with a guy with that much experience from the NFL and coming in. I don't know, how does that connection been for you?
I think me and Coach Tierling will get along great. Through the process, he was the one guy on the defensive staff that I didn't really know, and me and him took some time one Saturday afternoon to meet and talk football and not really have a game plan or even an agenda. The next thing you know, 4 hours later, we're still talking about football. So we hit it off, and I think it's a good thing where we have some similar philosophies on how to play defensive line, yet there's some things that are different. So there's some good give and take and some good dialogue that's going to take place because we're not exactly 100% in agreement on all things. So at least a healthy dialogue.
Have you reconnected with Bud much since you've been back in town, or is he? I know he was off. Sounded like he was off at the beach for a while, and hard to get him off the lake these days. I don't know if you maybe went out there to see him, or if you connected with him, or anything like that.
No, seeing him bop around the office sometime. Right now this is kind of a whirlwind for me. So I'm here during the week, and then on the weekends I'm either looking for a house or I'm driving back to Huntington to see my family. So I haven't. Other than waking up and coming to work every day, I haven't had a lot of time to see him. He does poke his head in just about on a daily basis to the defensive staff room, and we get to chop it up a little bit there. But I'm sure we got plenty of time to catch up.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
David Teal.
JC, I'm the only one on this old enough to have been in New Orleans in '95 with you. So, what are your primary memories of that season?
The main memory I believe is probably not a fond one. It was just the locker room after the Cincinnati game, and
Wow.
the next day, Sunday, having to watch that painful game and relive that, and just the fact that we all came together as a senior class and decided, you know what, and when I say this, I mean it wholeheartedly. We were not going to lose another game, and we decided that if to do that, we were going to have to practice harder than anybody else, compete more than anybody else in every aspect of our operation, whether it's classroom, weightlifting, practice. We were going to rechannel our energy, and that's what led to the 10-win streak, I guess.
In that regard, how huge was Miami the following week after Cincinnati?
Well, to be honest with you, we're probably not here if we don't win that game. We're 0-2 and had never beat Miami, and they still had some pretty good players, Ray Lewis and Kenny Holmes and Kennard Lang, and there was still some really good NFL talent there, and we had never beat those guys before. And to win that game being 0-2, I'd hate to see the direction the program would have gone if we had gone 0-3 at that point, as far as players, the facilities, coaches, all those things.
Yeah, Frank has always said that was a huge turning point for the program. Back then, obviously you aspired to play in the NFL, but did you think as a student at Virginia Tech, did you have the coaching bug and that one day you would want to coach after your playing days?
100%. I always knew I wanted to be a coach. If you looked at my senior superlatives in my high school yearbook, it actually says I wanted to be a coach. It never said anything about even playing in the NFL. The NFL came about as anyone happens. You just put your head down and you grind for 5 years, and you looked up and somebody said, hey, you're good enough, and I was really excited about it. And obviously I was injured really quickly and out of the NFL before it started, but I always knew that I wanted to be a football coach. In fact, my first degree here at Virginia Tech was a liberal arts and science degree, and at the time it was three minors equal the major, and the 3 minors I took because I wanted to be a coach. Were obviously sociology. I took health and PE, and the other one was African American studies. So I thought by taking those 3 courses of study would enable me to become a better coach, and that's why I chose to study what I did in college.
To know back in high school that you wanted to coach, I'm guessing there was a youth or a high school coach who had a great deal of influence on you. Who might some of those people be?
Well, the one that had the most influence on me is a man named Jerry Franks as far as coaching. I was actually going to transfer schools my sophomore year. I'm from a little small town in southern Maryland. I was actually going to transfer to a powerhouse at DeMatha. And Jerry Franks had been a guy who had coached at DeMatha, had coached at Naval Academy, had been very successful in every stop. And when he walked into our high school and he talked to me about, he can get me to where I wanted to go from here, that enabled me to stay home and play high school with all the guys I grew up with instead of having to travel 45 minutes to a private school.